Have you ever stopped to think that one of the decisions that gives you the greatest sense of victory in adult life might actually be holding you back financially? That decision that everyone praises, that generates comments, likes, approval, and that makes you feel like you finally leveled up. Buying a new car. The moment is almost always the same. The key in your hand, the smell of a new car, the clean seats, the gleaming dashboard. A silent relief fills your chest. The feeling that life is now moving forward, that you deserve this, that all the effort was worth it. Have you ever experienced this? For many middle-class people, changing cars too early is interpreted as financial progress. It's like an invisible milestone of success, an external sign that things are improving. Friends praise it, family approves, colleagues comment, and for a few days or weeks, everything seems to make sense. The mind calms down, pride grows, insecurity diminishes. But what almost no one realizes at that moment is that this decision, so common and socially validated, may be exactly what keeps so many people stuck in the same financial place for years or even decades. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might surprise you. The problem isn't the car itself. It's not about liking or disliking cars. It's about financial behavior. It's about normal decisions that impoverish ordinary people without making a sound, without causing immediate pain, without seeming like a mistake. On the contrary, they seem responsible, mature, even intelligent. And that's precisely where the danger lies. In the psychology of money, there's a very clear pattern. When something generates immediate emotional relief, the brain tends to ignore the long-term consequences. Changing cars too early often stems from this relief. The person feels they can finally breathe, that they're rewarding their own effort, that they're now on the right track. But while the emotion celebrates, the math works silently. Installments, depreciation, more expensive insurance, taxes, maintenance. All of this is absorbed as something normal, part of adult life, part of the game. And so, without realizing it, income rises, but financial freedom doesn't keep pace. Have you ever wondered why so many people earn more throughout their lives, but still feel like they're never getting anywhere? Why does money come in, but never seem to be enough? Why does the promise of financial stability always seem a little further ahead? Often, the answer lies precisely in those decisions that seem small, normal, and even deserved. Decisions that are made without questioning, because everyone else does them. What if what seems like financial progress is actually just a change of scenery? An illusion of advancement that keeps the structure exactly in the same place. Throughout this video, we'll begin to dismantle this logic, layer by layer, understanding why common decisions produce common results, and why. Without realizing it, many intelligent people end up financially stagnant while believing they are progressing. And perhaps, as you listen to this, a memory has already surfaced. A conversation at work, a family comment, that silent comparison in traffic or in the parking lot. Maybe you've already felt that mix of pride and doubt when changing cars, or maybe you're exactly at that moment now, wondering if it makes sense to take the next step. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below about what has touched you the most so far. It doesn't have to be something elaborate. It can be an experience, a feeling, a doubt that has never been spoken aloud. When you comment, you're not just talking to me. You're helping other people realize they're not alone in this reflection. This type of conversation almost never happens in everyday life. Most people only show the result, never the weight behind the decision. And when you share your experience here, something rare is created. A space where financial decisions cease to be a reason for judgment and become a reason for collective learning. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people who are also trapped in this silent cycle of normal choices that seem harmless. If at any point during this video you thought, this could have been said to me years ago, liking the video is a simple way to show that. It's not just about algorithm, it's a sign that this type of content needs to continue to exist. And if you feel that this deeper look at money, behavior, and everyday decisions resonates with your reality, subscribing to the channel is almost like saying, I want to continue this conversation, because it doesn't end here. There's still a lot of unseen information to be revealed, many common decisions to be questioned, and many silent patterns to be broken. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because there's a part of this story that almost no one explains honestly. At some point, the car ceased to be just a means of transportation and began to carry a much greater meaning. It became an extension of identity, a silent business card, a social symbol that communicates success, stability, victory, even when none of that is solid inside. And this transformation didn't happen by chance. It was built gradually, reinforced by advertising, informal conversations, subtle comparisons, and the human need for belonging. The problem is that when the car takes on this symbolic role, the decision ceases to be practical and becomes emotional. The mind begins to operate on another level. It's no longer about getting from point A to point B. It's about how you are seen upon arrival. It's about not feeling left behind. It's about not appearing stagnant while everyone around seems to be moving forward. And that's where social pressure comes in, the kind that is rarely spoken aloud, but which weighs heavily on every choice. The friend who traded in their car, the colleague who comments on the new model, the relative who asks when you're going to upgrade. Small stimuli that, added together, create the feeling that sticking with your current car is a sign of being behind, not a strategy. This constant comparison shapes our mindset without us even realizing it. The decision begins to be justified with arguments that seem rational, but which deep down stem from emotion. Now I can. I deserve it. It's a natural step. Everyone does it. And when the decision comes wrapped in these discourses, it ceases to be questioned. It seems logical, mature, even inevitable. But there's a hidden truth behind this. When you make a decision primarily to maintain an image, it almost never sustains your future. And it's important to make something very clear here. The problem isn't the car. It's not about liking comfort, technology, or safety. The problem is when the desire to appear successful comes before the actual construction of that stability. When emotion leads and reason only validates afterward. This is one of the most ignored aspects of financial life. Many decisions that seem intelligent are, in fact, emotional responses to invisible pressures. They alleviate insecurity in the short term, but create a silent impact in the long term. Throughout the financial journey of most ordinary people, this pattern repeats itself many times. Not only with cars, but with housing, standard of living, and consumption in general. The car only stands out because it is visible, comparable, and loaded with social meaning. And while this is happening, the real financial transformation, the one that doesn't appear in the parking lot, gets postponed. The money that could create a margin, peace of mind, and options ends up compromised by maintaining an external narrative. Realizing this isn't comfortable. It creates a certain internal discomfort because it challenges old beliefs and decisions already made. But it's also liberating because when you understand that many choices aren't about logic, but about belonging, something changes. You begin to see your decisions more clearly. And that's exactly when the conversation starts to get more interesting, deeper, more honest. Comment below. This makes sense to me. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject because after emotion takes over, there's a silent force that starts working every month without asking permission. Invisible mathematics. It doesn't appear on the day of purchase, it doesn't make a sound, and it almost never generates an immediate shock. On the contrary, it dilutes itself in daily life, hides in installments, in small automatic debits, in costs that seem too normal to be questioned. And that's exactly why so many people don't realize the real impact of this decision throughout their financial journey. When someone changes cars too early, the first movement in this equation is depreciation. The moment the car changes hands, a portion of the money simply ceases to exist. It's not a theoretical loss. It's value that will never return. And yet, this effect is treated as something abstract, distant, almost irrelevant. Then come the installments. They become part of the routine as a fixed, predictable, seemingly controllable commitment. Every month the money is paid, and precisely because it's always paid, it ceases to be questioned. The brain adapts. It becomes part of life. But the math doesn't stop there. A newer car usually brings more. Expensive insurance, higher taxes, maintenance costs that increase over time, and a series of indirect costs that are rarely factored into the initial calculations. Gradually, the monthly budget becomes tighter, not dramatically, but steadily. There's less left over at the end of the month, less margin, less breathing room. And when there's less left over, future decisions also become limited. The impact isn't in a single number, It's in the accumulated effect. Here's a hidden truth that almost no one explains clearly. The biggest cost of changing cars early isn't the car itself. It's everything that money fails to build. It's the savings that don't grow. It's the investment that never begins. It's the peace of mind that's always postponed. Each payment made is also a silent choice not to put that money to work for your future. But since that future hasn't arrived yet, the feeling of loss isn't felt. The impact is invisible, but real. This math creates a dangerous illusion. People feel like they're making progress because income is coming in and bills are paid, but in practice, they're just perpetuating a cycle that consumes time, energy, and opportunities. And the sooner this cycle begins, the harder it is to break free later, not for lack of effort, but because past decisions continue to exact their price every month. It's like running on a treadmill. There's movement, there's fatigue, but the scenery doesn't change. Understanding this completely changes your mindset. It's not about living poorly or depriving yourself of everything, but about seeing the real impact of decisions that seem small. When you start looking at money not just as something that pays for things, but as something that builds paths, your perspective transforms. And this transformation begins precisely when mathematics ceases to be invisible and becomes understood behind the scenes of everyday choices. Comment below, I'm on this journey too. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject because after understanding the pattern, the social pressure, and the invisible mathematics, a silent question arises. If this path keeps so many people trapped, what do financially intelligent people do differently? And the answer is usually simpler and less glamorous than it seems. It doesn't involve genius, luck, or exceptionally high salaries. It involves a change in mindset, a subtle but powerful reprogramming of the role each decision plays in the journey. People who build wealth over time see their car as a tool, not as an identity marker. For them, the car serves a practical function, to get them to and from places safely and reliably. It doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. It doesn't need to tell a success story. It doesn't need to validate choices. When identity isn't tied to the object, the decision becomes lighter, more rational, more aligned with larger goals. The focus shifts from what the car communicates today to what money can build tomorrow. Keeping a car for longer, in this context, isn't a sign of being behind. It's a strategy. It's understanding that each additional year with an asset that's already paid off or under control creates space. Space in the budget, mental space, space for choice. This space is invisible to those looking from the outside, but extremely valuable to those who live it from the inside. It allows you to absorb unforeseen events without despair, seize opportunities when they arise, and, most importantly, not live on the edge all the time. This is one of the great revelations of this mindset shift. Freedom doesn't come from what you show. It comes from what you no longer need to sustain. There is also an important shift in how progress is measured. Instead of using visible and comparable milestones, financially savvy people track internal and structural signal. They observe margins, stability, and options. They observe the impact of decisions in the medium and long term. They ask less, what will people think? And more, what does this create? This shift in questioning completely changes the course. Decisions that once seemed obvious are now questioned, and decisions that once seemed uninteresting begin to make a lot of sense. This stance isn't about judgment. It's not about criticizing those who change cars or choose a rigid lifestyle. It's about awareness, about understanding that many choices sold as progress are, in reality, just maintaining a cycle. When this hidden truth is recognized, something reorganizes itself internally. The person begins to realize that breaking patterns doesn't require major disruptions, but small, consistent deviations. And keeping a car for longer is just one of those deviations. The most interesting thing is that by doing this, other decisions naturally begin to be reviewed. The way we consume, pay in installments, plan. The journey ceases to be automatic and becomes intentional. And this opens up space for a series of reflections that go far beyond the car, because this is just one of the normal decisions that, repeated throughout life, shape predictable results. When the mindset changes in one area, it begins to change in many others, almost like a silent domino effect. Comment below, I'm on this journey too. If you've made it this far, it's because something in this conversation resonated with you. Perhaps not as a ready-made answer, but as a reflection that kept echoing. This type of content isn't about pointing out right or wrong, it's about clarity, about seeing common decisions with more awareness and realizing the impact they have over time. If this perspective has helped you in any way, subscribing to the channel is a simple way to continue this exchange, because the idea here is to keep exploring the behind-the-scenes aspects of money, mindset, and the choices that shape real life. If this resonates with you, leave a comment saying, "This message was for me." This helps me understand who's on the other side and creates a space for conversation that goes beyond the video. And if you felt this reflection connected with your own journey, leaving a like is just a natural gesture of appreciation for the time we've spent together here. There's a video over here that complements this topic and delves even deeper into this type of decision that seems normal, but changes everything in the long run. Click on it and continue reading.